On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
I got to realizing that I don't want Elliot's son running the company. I want Ben running the company. I want this to be Ben's footprint that everybody looks at and the leaders of the company to say, that's the dude I want to follow.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today I've got Ben Levine on the King stage. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Hey, so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. We are honored to have you. We were just talking, off air a little bit. You're 4th generation business owner. I've got questions for you today around legacy and you being the 4th generation. I mean, I want to get into it deep, but Ben, tell us what kind of business that you got, brother.
We're plumbing service business. So 22 trucks on the road. We serve the Greater Montreal area up in Quebec, Canada, and we take care of we're based as a service company. So we take care of everything that has to do with plumbing, water heating, natural gas, everything but new construction and new development. We try not to get into that. It's a completely different beast where it's the lowest common denominator, the base standards based on code and based on plans. And really we look to elevate the industry, elevate the service we provide. I always have Henry Ford in my head when he said, if I would have asked my clients what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So we provide a level of service beyond which the customers even know to ask for.
Oh, I love that. We can definitely get into that. I think customer experience is the new speed, to your point. And so we can definitely get into that.
Customer experience, the whole experience from A to Z.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry. Z Canada. I apologize. Z.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. It's Canada. So here's the reality is that 22 trucks on the road, you're crushing it. You've been crushing it for generations. Your family has been, and then now you, but at this level, I mean, bro, you could probably do pretty much whatever you wanted. I mean, I know that's relative, but you're still pushing. You're still grinding. You're still here on the podcast producing time and content, and you're getting the word out. And why? What's the bigger picture for you? What are you after?
So there was, let's say about 4 or 5 years ago, about 5 years ago now, my dad handed over the reins as president of the company to me. And honestly, I had no real idea what that meant. It's pretty surreal experience. And I was working in the business. I was supporting the project managers. I was meeting clients. I was doing everything I could to run my dad's company.
Yeah.
And then I took one course, coaching course was my first one. It was the most expensive single decision I made with no proper returns, that I signed right on that line. It was awesome. It was $5,000. And I'm like, I was shaking after. I'm like, but this is the right thing to do. Yeah. And I went through this course through the Proctor Gallagher Institute. It's based on Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Yeah. So it really got me thinking about, what does the company need from me? How do I get out of my dad's shadow? And the way I said it and felt it in my head is that I was in the shadow of his footprint.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it's awesome. It's Elliot's son's running the company.
Yeah.
And then I got to realizing that I don't want Elliot's son running the company. I want Ben running the company. I want this to be Ben's footprint that everybody looks at, and the leaders of the company to say, that's the dude I want to follow. That's so really at the base of it all is I wanted a better kind of company. for everyone to work at. I feel a huge sense of responsibility. It depends on the day. Actually, as of this morning, we have 49 employees. We just hired a couple of apprentices, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I feel a responsibility to them.
Yeah.
49 people, 49 families that we're helping to support.
Yeah,
That's one aspect that keeps me pushing for better and better.
Yeah.
Next is I want to elevate the trades. Like the trade, I want to get that image of the plunger and the dirty clothes and the ash crack out of people's minds and bring a respectability to trade service people, service providers as a whole, and bring professionalism to a different level. I speak at different schools. I speak at the plumbing school, and I talk about pride in being a plumber. I was actually brought in to a private high school because up here in Canada, we have like equivalent to almost like a junior college. After grade 11, you graduate high school. Then it's a junior college for a couple of years. Then you jump into university for 3 years or engineering doctor for more.
Right.
And I was brought in because there were so many kids worried, like, what if I don't get into the college I want? What if I don't get into college at all? Can I still be successful?
Yeah.
What's the, and it was such an amazing experience. So I spoke and I gave my perspective to these kids. And then when I went to go sit, went around and I spoke with a lot of them, and they're looking at me and they're like, so from a plunger, you made a living? I'm like, no, dude, from a business.
Yeah.
I made a career and I made a life for 45 people with me. And he looked at me like, huh.
Yeah.
And I said, plumbing is more than just a plunger. We need to elevate that. We come in, we're experts.
Yep.
We have an expertise that honestly, it's so cool.
Well, we need you.
Fast it is. Yeah. And I think a lot during the pandemic over the last like 3-4 years, 2-3 years, people really saw that they needed us as they were using their home more and more in ways that it was never designed to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the industry disruption that you're talking, I just want to point this out for the listener as you're talking.
Yeah, go for it.
The reality here, who you're listening to, I want to just kind of, I mean, we just officially met, right? I know we've been interacting with you, with my team and stuff, but who I'm talking to today is an industry disruptor. There are people who are motivated by a certain couple of things. Every single person falls into, one of about 4 or 5 categories. For me, it's legacy. My hope is that 3 generations deep from me, that there's a Benjamin, that there's somebody on my grandson or my grandson's son or my grandson's daughter or whatever is an industry disruptor like Ben is. And so what he's talking about is not necessarily talking 4th generation down. He's already that. The legacy before him has already laid the groundwork. He has a whole new challenge ahead of him. And so that's the light that we're going to go into here. But you're an industry disruptor, and so you won't stop until the industry is better off with you.
That's exactly. I want everyone to know that even people in the trades, and that gets me when it's like guys will do jobs on the side, or in French, there's an expression, it's a Sunday plumber. There's that, or the one-man shows who devalue our trade and undercutting everybody because to them, they have no real expenses. They do the invoicing at night. So in their mind, it's all profit, but it really, it kills the professionals out there. Right. And that's where I want to get, even within our industry, to know that, dudes, we're experts. We deserve to be paid like experts.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what you're trying to do. You're trying to bring value to everybody, even the guy that's currently not bringing value, but you're trying to bring value to him too. So let's jump into your story here, man. I want to know, obviously, how you came to be an entrepreneur or a business owner is by generation, right? But you have had some different challenges than maybe somebody starting from scratch. We'll get to that here in a bit.
Yeah.
Tell us about obviously you worked in the business. He didn't just hand you the reins. Like, tell us a little bit about the backstory.
No, so I grew up in the business. I mean, winter break, spring break, very few vacations growing up. And especially in Canada, winter is prime heating season, frozen pipes. It's emergencies are that much more urgent. We need to be there. So very few vacations over winter break. So I'd be working in the office. I'd be painting, fitting. Actually, we have one plumber who's been with us for 39 years. I'm 40 years old. So really, he remembers me in diapers. When I was 6, 7 years old, I'd go with him to do service calls, and he's the one who taught me my tools. I'd literally be handing him tools while he was fixing a toilet. I'd go fix faucets with him. And even we had an ice storm up here when I was in grade 11 in January of 98. All the rest of my friends were sitting at home playing video games, and I was on the road 14, 16 hours a day. And it's part of what I grew up with is the work ethic. It's the helping out within the company. And then once I got into college and university, it was the same idea. But going back to my full journey is going into junior college or CJEP here. I actually wanted to be a physio. So everyone thought, oh, his path is laid out for him. He's going to go into the family business, easy life, right? Well, that's not what I wanted. Obviously, I didn't want an easy life. I wanted to be a sports physio. I loved playing sports, and I always played to my max. Didn't matter if it was ultimate frisbee and then the park with my buddies. I would dove into thorn bushes to make that catch.
Wow.
So I was always hurting myself on top of that. So I just figured it was a good mix together. But at the same time, while I was helping out on during vacations or days off, I'd go in, and I love building.
Yeah.
So I'm an avid Lego builder, but I love building. I love at the end of the day looking back on work with pride of workmanship on it that I just helped that customer. They couldn't have done it without me.
Yeah.
And there was actually one case, it was a huge imprint on me when I was in university. And it was after I went into business school with the mindset going into the company. But we were working in probably about 150-year-old condo in old Montreal. And we broke open the floor, and I looked at the piping, and I turned to the plumber, who, by the way, is now one of the project managers in the office.
Nice.
So I turned to the plumber, and his name's Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, this is messed up. They should call somebody. Now Jimmy is like 5 foot something or other, but not that much more. He comes up to here on me, and he went right up into my face, and he looked at me. He's like, they did call somebody. We're here. Ain't nobody coming behind us.
Wow.
We're their hope. We're not leaving here until we make sure they have it right. And it's like, damn, we're superheroes.
Yeah, literally.
So it's like it's one of those taglines I like to use when I talk to people on business development is we don't look at a call as a sale, but using our expertise to help people. Yeah. And that resonated, that conversation from Jimmy. So yeah, I went into school. I got a BCom in economics just because I love playing with equations and variables and fixed, and all with the intention of coming into the business. I wanted to better myself to see how I could help the business out. And then literally I had knee surgery, and the first day I was taking over from answering the phones in the service department. He came back 2 weeks later. I was downstairs sweeping the office. I was helping answer the phone. I got my apprenticeship cards. I went on job sites. I got my hands dirty. Then our guy who was looking after the warehouse, he had a heart attack at around Christmas time. And so they asked me to come in. So now all of a sudden I started looking after the warehouse. Started looking after the warehouse, started doing pricing and ordering. And now I'm within like a 6-month period of me starting, I've done about 7 or 8 different jobs and responsibilities within the company. And it was an amazing introduction into the company.
It sounds like not from prompting from your dad either. Like it wasn't like him as the owner going, here, son, learn all this stuff. because I'm grooming you. It was more of a kind of sounds like an open hand. Like you kind of bounce around a little bit and to figure these things out for yourself. Am I picking that up right?
Yeah, it was always, where do they need me? The only time that I actually asked what direction to go is after a certain amount of time. I'm like, Dad, I need to go back on the road. I need, for a few reasons. One, I need to show these guys that I'm going to be in the trenches with them.
Yeah.
I needed to earn their respect that I'm going to work just as hard, if not harder.
Yeah.
That's one. And number two, I need to know the business. I need to know the technical side of it. I was exempt from plumbing school. In Quebec, we have 2 exemptions, and I was the homme d'employeur, or the fils de boss, which is literally the boss's kid. So my apprenticeship card was a different color than everybody else. I got embarrassed a couple of times by inspectors on job sites, where after that I was just called fils. I was just called son after for a bit, but I kept pushing, and I had helped out in the service department. So I was helping the schedule where all the helpers were going. So I made sure if it was a small spot, I was in there. I don't know if you could tell, but I'm 6'1", and I'm not a small guy, but I'm up for any challenge. Any heavy lifting, I scheduled myself in.
Yeah.
Digging in an underground, I put myself in that basement by myself.
Yeah.
Which, one story, I found a petrified cat. Literally, it was just like a mummified cat, where I was sent into this crawl space, which was just dirt and gravel. And I had to dig for 3 days by myself with very minimal lighting, which was probably my fault at the time, but I didn't know that. All to be able to renovate that whole apartment on top of it. But I put myself there. I scheduled overnight. So it was really important for me to be in the trenches with these guys. So that was, on the most part, it was like a go with the flow.
Your journey of taking something over looks different than someone starting something from scratch. And so I'm gonna make a delineation here for the listener, because whether the listener has started something from scratch or whether they've taken over something, they have their own challenges and don't necessarily covet the other. However, I will say this: purchasing a business or taking over a business, although it has its own challenges, I'll do that over and over and over again, as opposed to Gathering the Kings was my last start from scratch. And that was kind of just more out of like, this is how I'm designed. This is the way I think that this is the thing that God has made me to do, type of a thing. But outside of that, it's like the challenges that you faced weren't necessarily hitting the pavement to get the next customer. There was already a sales process in place in the business, but the challenges that, you made it better. I'm sure it's 2022. It's different than 1982. And so sales are done differently. And so I know you've had to upgrade that, but that's a challenge, is to upgrade the sales process and to get in and get your sales guys or your techs to get them to believe you, and not to just be the son or Elliot's son, but to be Ben, and to be Ben, the owner, or be Ben, the entrepreneur. And so I think that, just to make that distinction, you've done a really good job of kind of giving us your story, although different than somebody who had to kind of like maybe quote unquote grind it out. Yours was grinding it out also, just in a completely different way. It's putting you in a position to be able to basically earn the trust of this thing that's already been built. Would you like to add anything to that?
Just a real huge differentiator is, coming out of university, I started, and it's almost like coming out of plumbing school, you start with like zero experience. And all I was doing, and this is ignorance, naivete, I depends on the day, I bounce it back and forth. I was going around observing, but also maybe thinking out loud of things I wanted to change. And my uncle at the time called me into his office. He's like, "You're scaring people." I'm like, "Am I that physically intimidating?" Like, what it would, he's like, "You're talking about everything that you're going to change. And honestly, you don't know the business yet. So what I'm going to need you to do," and I'll censor a little bit, "is shut your mouth, keep your eyes and ears open, and learn how we do it.
Yeah.
So when you're ready and the company and the people are ready for change, you know what you're changing from and what the downfalls you're going to be missing." So
good.
That was a great piece of advice he gave me. And it definitely did not escape me how fortunate I was to come into a company with, first of all, the best reputation in the city. I'm going to tell you, everybody that I spoke to just compliment me on my dad. It's like,
Yeah.
your dad is the nicest. He's always been there to help us out. And it
Probably
so
pretty
that
impactful for you to
reputation,
be able to hear that being said about your
yeah,
dad.
yeah. And then that goes towards legacy also, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I want to relate this. I've got just a quick experience here. When I was building my first sales team, I took over a sales team. And at the same time, me and this other guy, we interviewed, and he built a brand new team. I took over the existing team. They wanted two teams. There was only one. I took over the current team. And there was a lot of times where he would come over and be like, "Oh, I don't have enough people, or I'm interviewing and this and that." And I had a whole team already, but all the things that you just discussed were absolute things that I had to go through as well, which are I didn't change a bunch right away. Of course, like eventually after like a year and a half, I changed the team name, I changed how we celebrated, I made it mine, I made it our brand, quote unquote, inside an organization. But it's the same thing. I had to go in, I had to show them that I was in the trenches with them. I was willing to help them on deals and really fight the fight for them because they didn't know. They didn't have that experience with me. In fact, I remember standing in the room where the sales director, who had been the sales manager, he got promoted. That's why they needed to fill the spot. And so he's standing in the room with the team, with me. And he's like, "All right, guys, here's your new sales manager." And I remember a lady going, "Well, why can't we just have you?" I'm standing right there. I'm like, "Huh?" So you got your work cut out for you when you're taking something over, and you've given us some exquisite advice, or and even through your uncle. Pay attention to the people. Pay attention to currently what's happening. Identify areas of opportunity. Don't go changing things too quick. Earn trust. Earn trust. Earn trust. Earn trust. Earn trust. Take some more time. Probably earn some more trust. And then over the course of time, as you're building that trust, you can change a brand or an identity or a culture inside of a business. Would you like to add anything before we move on?
No, that's awesome.
Hey, Chaz Wolfe here. As many of you know, I have been on an absolute mission to help entrepreneurs from all across the country in many different industries level up their game and grow their business and intentionally connect with other entrepreneurs. We do that obviously through the podcast, but we also have a peer-to-peer mastermind group specifically for 7 to 9 figure business owners. We are bringing some of the best and most successful entrepreneurs and minds together in a regular and a super intentional way to not only grow our network, but to be able to leverage. And at a certain point in business, success becomes about leverage, leveraging time, leveraging resources, leveraging key relationships. This is exactly what we're doing inside of the peer-to-peer mastermind group called Gathering the Kings, specifically for 7 to 9 figure business owners. So if that's you, if you're ready to level up your 7 to 9 figure business even to the next level and get around other big hitters just like you, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com, fill out a short application, and it'll come to an application call with me, and I want to chat with you to see if it might be a good fit. Talk soon. Perfect, man. All right, let's go over to a good decision. You've made lots of them, I'm sure. What was a good decision you can look back on, share with the audience right now?
So actually, it followed one of the bad decisions I've made. It was so I'll just paint a little bit of context here. Looking at about 4.5, 5 years ago now,
Okay.
we had one major client. Thankfully, we still have him as a client. So thank you very much for your business. Really appreciate it. But at the same time, we were the only plumber that he used. He had 50 buildings around the city. We were the only plumber, and my goal was to serve them. A lot of my time was taken up with that.
Sure.
And it was, I mean, it was almost at a point, there were some years it was 60% of our total sales,
Wow.
with, all the eggs in one basket type scenario to a T.
Yeah.
Then we were on one job site, and really cool. It's a complex of 10 buildings around a garden with a nice fountain in the middle. And we were systematically renovating every single building. And he was the owner at the time, was on vacation in Eastern Europe, and he got a jarbled up message from a secretary, blah, 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 inspectors, blah, 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 plumbers, electricians, job site closed.
Oh.
So what ended up happening is that morning, the whole complex got surrounded by police,
Oh.
Then our construction regulating commission
Task
came
force,
with
yeah.
inspectors. Our workman's comp, which here is CMESSC, but our workman's comp inspectors came and visited, and almost like our provincial IRS, which here is Revenue Quebec, they also had inspectors in place.
Wow.
And all that owner got from that message was somebody called the inspectors in to close the job site, and it was either the plumbers or the electrician. So he sent an email out company-wide that nobody is to call us or the electrician until further notice. Well, the next morning we had 6 trucks parked at home.
Right.
And I had no real idea why. I was calling everybody, and apparently anonymous tip really means anonymous tip until we were able to figure out what happened. But it took about a week and a couple of days that
And
we
a
were
ton of
just
lost revenue.
ton of lost revenue. And then I got a phone call on a Tuesday night saying, Monday night, saying we have to deliver 19 apartments. And by Friday, oh, and by the way, it was one of the tenants that she got into a fight with one of the contractors, and the dude decided she had already fought with the window installer, and the dude decided he just didn't want to engage with her. So he pretended he didn't speak English or French. And he just went out in Russian, and in her mind, well, if he's only speaking Russian, then I'm calling in the IRS, and I'm calling everybody, and I'm making his life miserable.
Good.
So it was literally one tenant that did all of this.
Wow.
But I made a decision. So this is where that good decision came in.
Yeah.
I made a decision that I would do everything that I could to make that not happen again. To not have one person be able to impact my business in that way.
Yeah. So good.
It got me thinking as a president in a different way than I had ever before. Like I had said before, I was working in the business, but now all of a sudden, how do I start? I didn't even know where to start, but it's like I needed to hedge my bet.
Yeah.
I needed to diversify our portfolio. I needed to do it for the health and betterment and future of the company.
Yeah.
And that's
And
when,
for those families that that are counting on you to do so.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when, like, serendipitous guy I played hockey with when I was in elementary school sent me a message on LinkedIn. Hey, are you interested in coming to visit a referral business group? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it BNI? He's like, yeah. Is that okay? I'm like, hell yeah. Let's do it. 2 days later, I visited and I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome.
Got me on a networking in a way that I've never done before. I started investing in coaching.
Yeah.
Like I had said, shortly thereafter is when I had signed with that coach, that personal coach right there. And then that led to so many other opportunities that opened up afterwards. And that decision right there was probably the best one I was able to make.
That's incredible. Well, I think that there's so much to learn from that. Your story, the leading up to, gave us such a perspective of like, oh no, you're right. We can't have it all in one basket. Sales or a new marketing solution to fill the pipeline. And that's in essence what you did with the networking group is you filled the pipeline. When you have a full pipeline, you don't have to be so, focused. Well, you still want to be focused on every client, but you don't have to be so, tied to one other person's issue. That he had the issue, he took it away, six jobs. So are you giving me this good and bad decision all in one, or do you have another one that you want to share?
So I definitely have another bad decision, although I'd like to just maybe give a little bit more of the lessons I got out of it.
Yeah, please do.
I had an ex-girlfriend whose dad probably still is an accountant or was an accountant. And the one thing he said is he was part of a charity organization, but he was the treasurer. And people kept coming up to him. He said, okay, so you made that expense. I need the receipt. They said, don't you trust me? And he said, trust, but verify.
I love that phrase.
So that stuck with me. Maybe I didn't take that advice to heart enough at the beginning, and it came back to bite me in the butt. But honestly speaking, it led me to really be able to understand that there's professionals out there for a reason. I speak with my accountant 2, 3 times a month, even when there's nothing major coming on.
Yep.
I speak to my lawyer maybe once every month or two, just to, hey, I have an idea. How far off base am I? Am I going to get hit in the ass with this? And that's where use professionals, and always verify.
Yeah. Yeah. That trust but verify, especially I can only imagine with your history of, family and older business, lots of dynamics there. I'm sure that there's dynamics with, just like all the regulation that you just mentioned with that previous example. We've got regulation here in the US as well, but that seemed like a lot. So
Yeah.
you got to cover your hiney on a lot of those things. So what process do you have now, Ben? Now that it's yours, fully yours, it's your company, you're the full-blown deal now. You've been like this for a while. You've made the good mistakes or the good choices. You made some bad choices. How does a decision process look for you now?
So there's a few things. One, I'm partners with my brother-in-law, so still family business.
That's great.
So that's pretty cool. He's a great sounding board. Decision making for me, one of the things I keep needing to repeat myself, and I guess that comes from coaching and mentoring,
Mm.
is to respond, but don't react. Make sure emotions are completely out of decision making. That's a tough one for a lot of people that I work with, that I deal with, and they don't understand how I stay level headed a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Let's say a lot of times I need a few minutes to get to that level of perspective, but at the same time, you can't react. And when I find myself about to, I stop.
Yeah.
You alluded a little bit that we're a little bit of an outside the box service company, outside the box plumber. And I started a few years ago an advisory committee. Basically, it's a group of the senior plumbers. We're 5 plumbers, myself, my office manager. We get together either every month or once a quarter. And honestly, I run things by them.
Mm.
If most of what I try to do is to make their lives better.
Yeah.
I call them our internal clients.
Yeah. Literally.
Our plumbers on the road, they're our internal clients. They're our top priority. I don't care if you're that one client with 60% of my business, our plumbers are above you.
Mm.
That's our goal in the office, is to serve them properly. So with that in mind, and every decision I make is with that in mind. I collaborate with them. We actually, something else we've done, and I found that this added clarity to my own decision making, and I found such a huge improvement with our key employees and people in our office and our plumbers on the road, is we sat down and we had a powwow, I guess, best way to describe it, a seminar, on the power of why. And honestly, I showed Simon Sinek's talk and asked them what our why is, and then, okay, what's our core values? We, as an office staff, came up with our core values and our mission statement, and boom, we put it up on the wall. We have it in 4 different places in our office: mission statement and core values. And what I always say, use that as your lighthouse on a foggy ocean and make a decision. Don't need to consult me. If it's in line with our values, okay. If you were wrong, we discussed after and readjust. I'm okay with that. But if you make a decision that's against those core values, now we start to have a problem.
Yeah.
So decision making is so much easier when you know what your values are, you know what you're in line with. And to a different degree, I've also sat down and come up with a vision board of where I want to go. And decisions become much easier if it supports that vision. If it doesn't support that vision, sorry, no. Does it support the vision? Okay. Is it in line with our values? Okay. It's almost like at that point, you take the emotions out of it, because so many businesses I speak to, it's like, okay, gut decision. I'm like, what? Okay. At a certain point, if you're balancing between two, if you know that one is intrinsically wrong and you don't
Right.
feel right about it, well, that means it's against your values.
Exactly.
So get that in place, and that will make decision making so much faster,
Yeah.
so much easier, and easier to be able to communicate why you made those decisions.
Yeah, you just did an amazing job of breaking that down. I think that there's been a lot of people here on the show. That's my answer as well. It's like, look, what do you want? And then does this help me get what I want? If it doesn't, I don't do it. If it does, I do it, no matter the cost. And so I think what you just did is you gave us a beautiful breakdown of what that actually means in the moment and how we're using that as a guide or a light, like you said. I'm going to switch over to the speed round here. I'm going to come at you in a little different angle with some
Woo.
questions.
All right.
Here we go. You
Hit me.
ready?
Hit
All
me.
right, I want you to break down this plumbing business of yours. I want you to tell me what's the one metric, if you could only pick one, it's the one metric that you would choose to track forever and ever.
Client repeat rate.
Ah, yes. Tell me why, real quick.
All right. Really quickly. If a client's coming back to you, that means you did good by them. That means they love the experience. That means they buy into what you're selling.
Yeah, 100%.
Plain and simple.
They're a raving fan, as we say.
Yeah.
What book would you recommend, Ben, for a business owner who's not yet at the seven-figure mark?
Damn, that's a hard one to nail it down to one. If you'll allow me, I have two. One of them is the
Yeah.
E-Myth.
Yeah, great book.
E-Myth, and that example is the baker. It makes amazing pies, and then she opens a bakery. Just because you're amazing at baking pies doesn't mean you should be opening a bakery. And if you do open a bakery, understand it's a business. You're not a technician anymore.
Yeah.
What needs to go into a business that's different than learning how to bake the best damn pie there is? That's number one. And number two, maybe a little lesser known. It's The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Yeah, great book.
Yeah, and there's really one huge message and one image that sticks in my mind. It's mastering unmeasurable efforts to get to the next level. He uses going to the gym, but he uses one analogy really quickly. It's two frogs in a bucket of milk that they fell into, and one of them just swimming around realizes, hey, I'm not getting anywhere, and just gives up, and then he drowns. The other one keeps going and going and going, and eventually he turned that bucket of milk into butter, and then he was able to hop out.
Yeah.
But he would never have been able to see that based on three strokes in there. So that image really stuck with me.
Yeah. Hence the name of Slight Edge
Yeah.
for that advantage. You already mentioned networking and how valuable it's been for you. What would you think? My question really is, what do you think about networking and masterminding? You've already talked about networking. What do you think about masterminding with other entrepreneurs specifically?
Masterminding, I love meeting business owners. It whether they're coaches or mentors or business owners, and whether they're a business owner just starting out or they're multi-millionaire business owners that are on the verge of retiring, I ask these people that I look up to, I ask them to go for lunch, and I've gotten so much value out of it.
Yes.
There's to paraphrase, there's a book called Ethics of the Fathers in Jewish liturgy. And to paraphrase, it's make a teacher out of everyone that you meet.
Yeah.
And I take that to heart. And then once you're going to mastermind, you're going to like-minded people who just elevate each other. We're the sum of the five people we spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And so if I'm getting a little here, a little from there, and all of a sudden I'm building myself just by osmosis, by being around these dudes, these people,
So true.
it's so huge advocate for mastermind, huge advocate for getting a coach, getting a mentor, and obviously networking to take business to the next level too.
Yeah, I mean, the listener is doing it with us right now. They're by osmosis learning from your story and raising the tide underneath their ship here. So I got one last question here for you. It's a little bit of a deep one, but we're almost done with the show here. So I want you to tell me, because you're fourth generation.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to hear if this answer is different. If you lost it all, and maybe I'm setting it up to where your all looks different, because it's like, I think maybe like more weight because it's the fourth generation. If you lost it all, what would you do?
I, I, I'm bouncing between two things here. One, start it again. Learn my mistakes. Learn what happened. Start again. Maybe maybe do a deep personal dive. Maybe really do different kinds of market studies and get the key people that we have in the company on board with me.
Yeah.
And dude, let's go at it again. The other thing that I've been thinking of, and really there's a lack of trust and trade in our society right now. So I know there's like Annie's List or Better Business Bureau or things like that, but honestly, to maybe be a trade concierge, so to speak,
Yeah.
just being able to connect the right kind of tradesperson to the right kind of building or homeowner, and even helping to look after that expertise.
Yeah.
So it's one of the two. One of them is really going at it again. I'm still young. I still have the energy. I still have the drive, the fire.
Yeah.
So if you ask me right now, probably start it all over again.
That's awesome, man. I love the energy, like you said, as far as I guess what the weight in even me asking it was like, man, if I was the fourth generation owner, would I make
Yeah.
decisions differently? Would I be hesitant thinking, great grandpa XYZ this thing and then passed it, blah blah blah, whatever the scenario is. It's like, does that live on me? But your answer is the same of a lot of other owners, which is free. It's free to say, look, if it's all gone, dude, I just do it again. I know how to do it. Why wouldn't I do it again? That'd be silly. So I love that. I love the perspective, love the mindset. You've been incredible here today. How can the listener find you?
LinkedIn, personal connection right there, where I'm on it regularly. I'm posting videos on there also, but you connect with me on LinkedIn. It would be my pleasure to have a chat with you. That's the easiest way to connect personally, or our Levine Bros. So we're really active on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube also. So
Yeah.
any way you message it, it'll get to me.
That's awesome. I just so appreciate your time, your fourth generation expertise, the struggles that you've been through, the decisions, your vulnerability. You've been incredible. Thank you for being here. We wish you nothing but success and blessing on your family and your business. Thanks for being here.
Amen. Thanks so much, Chad.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.